So, issue two, the first thing I have to talk about is I'm impressed once again at the efficiency of the storytelling to introduce these characters to people who may not know about them, because we get two big ones introduced here with Anthro, who is a caveman and also a sexist bastard, which I am reasonably sure we're supposed to not like him for because he makes a big deal about being horrified that he might have a daughter instead of a son. But we'll see where that goes. And also, there is Kamandi, who lives in this Mad Max type future where humans are slaves to animals, and he's this kind of freedom fighter. I had basically no knowledge of either of these guys. I'd heard Kamandi's name a couple times, but that's it. And within just a couple panels, really, I had a whole handle on what their deal is, like what I should be invested in with them, and like what they kind of bring to the table as far as like their personality, their abilities, everything. So really top notch, just character introductions, even if a lot of people reading this already knew who they were. Like, it doesn't waste much time with that. It gets new people up to speed. Great job all around. Now, as for the story of this issue, we find out that the Monitor has placed these tower things in 5 different time periods, maybe on different Earths. I wasn't quite as clear about that. And different teams have to go to each of them and kind of turn them on or something to like protect them from whoever is trying to destroy all of reality, who we still don't really know yet. Like, we kind of catch glimpses of them in this one. They're just in black, in shadows, and they're just this very generic villain type stuff with their dialogue so far. So no idea who this is. I kind of get the feeling it might be a completely new character, but not much to go on there so far. But luckily, the heroes definitely pick up the slack just because there are so many of them. And even for someone like me who was never that big into comics per se, it's really neat to see all these personalities bouncing off each other because, ever since in the 60s when they first started making big inroads towards like making these things actual standard universes where all these characters can interact with each other, this was what people love to see. And you this time we have the regular Superman along with the older one, so they're probably going to meet up at some point, and that is going to be neat. But for now, Superman and Batman are just working together, and there's this weird thing where the Joker kills a movie studio guy, which I imagine is just an excuse to get the scene with the Flash time traveling to warn him of something, which I'm pretty sure is what the scene in Batman versus Superman that with the Flash coming back and that ultimately came to nothing was a reference to. So at least it's nice to know that it wasn't completely out of nowhere. It was referencing this kind of, I imagine, famous event in comic book history, and the big DC fans would already know about that. So it doesn't make me like the movie any better, but at least it's good to know. And we also take a trip to Atlantis, where the big hero is Arion, who is kind of like John Constantine from what I can see so far. And I like Constantine from Legends of Tomorrow, so that's a plus. And like, he's just this very arrogant magic guy, but it's clear he does have a genuine love for his people, and he wants to protect them. And like, he gets along great with all of them. So it's a nice little balance of sides here that makes him pretty interesting, even though I, again, know nothing about him going into this. Um, so that's basically all that's going on here. And there is some neat stuff that could come up with Kamandi having to work with Solivar the gorilla, even though he basically hates all animals because of like the setting he lives in. And that might come to something, it might not. I'm still too early to tell how major or minor any of these characters' part is going to play in this. I kind of get the feeling it's just going to be stretched among all of them, basically having their own tiny role, no one lead. But one other thing I picked up on is it has this one guy known as the psycho pirate who we saw in the CW Elseworlds right at the end, where we get to see his mask, and that was played as this big thing, which I had no idea what the point was. But now that I'm reading this, I see that he is a major player in this because he was recruited by the Monitor and he had some important part in the plan, but instead he turns against them because, he's a bad guy and that's what he does. And now he's been recruited by whoever is destroying these realities. So that was definitely a big tip off even before they revealed that the next event was going to be Crisis, that like maybe he would have a part to play in it. And I'm very interested to see what his part is now that I know he's part of the comics. Oh, and one other big thing in this one, Harbinger turns out to have multiple personalities, and one of them, at least one, it's still kind of unclear, is serving the villain. And she kind of has very limited control over what she can do with any of them. At least that's the impression I'm getting. I imagine we're supposed to be really questioning her, like which side she's ultimately going to be on. But it is neat to have this like total wild card character in there. You have no idea what she's going to do, maybe even more than I'm supposed to, if indeed she has appeared before, which I still have no clue about, even though I'm leaning towards this being her first appearance. Um, but she's written well, and we get a feel of that she doesn't want to be working for the bad guys quite, but she will because she has like her own needs going on, and she was basically raised as a slave her whole life to the Monitor, so she has some resentment there, which is understandable. And the best villains always see themselves as the hero, so if that's where we're going with this, that's a pretty neat beginning. But this has given me a much better idea of what the rest of the story is going to be, and we still have the vast majority of it to go. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll see you all there.